Welcome to Simple Cloudware. It's your host, Chad Wilson, and we are going to create an API call from Angular. Keep your head in the cloud. Okay, let's get started here. So first we're going to create a couple new folders. The first one is going to be data services. This is where we're going to be putting our call to the API, and this will give us the ability to access the calls from multiple different components. And we're also going to create models, and we're going to put the classes in here that we'll be able to pass the classes and the information to the API and then receive it in a format that we understand. So first of all, let's create this model. This is just going to be a simple response model. This helps so much with mapping. Once you can look at the documentation for any API, it'll tell you what the particular naming convention is and the types. And so you can mirror that here. And that way, when you get the responses, it will just simply come into these models, and then you can take them and use them in the UI, or you can modify them to do whatever you're doing with the data. So the next thing we're going to do is actually create the data service. Alright, we're going to add a couple imports, just the standard imports. And I try to use the prefill as much as possible. It just saves me the pain of misspelling something. And this is really important to understand the injectable, because since we're going to be using this in all the other components, we're going to create this class as an injectable class. That way we can just reference it, and then it'll call directly to it. And we can't forget to add this also to the modules component, or the other components won't be able to find it. An environment here is also super useful once you start moving your application up the path to production. Each step in that path, dev, test, stage, UAT, usually you'll have two or a couple prods. They'll all have different configurations in which you can put here and then build and make a special build for each environment. And then here's our simple response model that we just created. Alright, so here's our class. And then let's add a constructor so we can inject the HTTP client. You can't forget to put the injectable as a decoration. This is just going to be our first function here that we'll call from the other components, and we're just laying the foundation to actually make this call to the API. And you see we're using the environment that we already set up to have the base URL, and then we just append the API test. And we'll follow this model throughout. When we're accessing multiple different endpoints, then we'll append those names to this base URL. And here we're adding our parameters. And then we're going to make the call here. Alright, so we have the URL and our params. Looks good. Just cleaning up the code a little bit. Alright, looks good. So the next thing we're going to do is add our first component, and it's absolutely critical that we save our project, because if we attempt to create this component without saving, then our auto-gen code will be out of alignment with our unsaved items, and then we have to try to figure out what goes where, and it makes a big mess. Alright, so here in our app module, you see we've added our new component. And now we can add our data service so it can be injectable into the new components. And then we're adding our HTTP client so it can be consumed by the data services. Remember, we added that. All right, spelling error. There we go. So now we're going to add the HTTP client to the imports and the data services to the providers. Good. So now let's take this and add it to our route, so we can actually navigate over to it. This API test is the URL, and then the component is actually what it navigates. We're just going to make some simple hrefs here. Alright, now let's just go over to our API test and let's add the data services so we can inject it. And then we'll add our model so we can consume the result. And here's where we're injecting the data service. Looks good. And we're just going to capture our result in this public string. And then make the call here on our init. And on the subscribe, we're going to map our result to our actual public string from the response so we can see, make sure that it actually came all the way through. And then we can just add this string right here. A little break. Perfect. And let's just start the project up and see what we've got. can control click on this. Let's bring this over here. And click on our API test, and there it is. We got the here. So we made a successful call to the API. Perfect. Thanks for watching. This was another exciting episode on how to connect to an API using Angular. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, if you see anything I did good, bad, ugly, put it in the comments below. Smash that like button and the notification bell so you can hear when I create another episode. And remember, keep your head in the cloud.